labeling him, as it were. So the email that I sent you, I'm just going to summarize very quickly, was I was inspired, like many others, with the Make America Healthy Again movement. And I believe that at the county level, there are certain steps we can take to further this and benefit everyone involved. So among these would be, I was hoping to do a deep dive on the county jail and the foods that are being sold, because I think it's pretty obvious that super toxic foods don't help the mindset of somebody that's already toxified their body to the umpteenth degree. I did a year in county jail, Massachusetts and New Hampshire, Stratford County, not this one. But I can tell you there's a lot of guys in there that they're a hot mess inside and outside, but I think just getting clean would be the first step to kind of moving on to real rehabilitation versus just kind of shipping you on down the river.
What would you think if thousands and thousands of pounds of fresh, locally grown produce were provided for meals for those inside the correctional facility and in the nursing home?
The nursing home is a whole different story, okay. But in real world, I mean, with jail life, nothing actually, what you put in doesn't always end up coming out. There's a lot of corruption, not necessarily at the CO level. They're not going to steal peppers. But I mean, you know what I'm trying to get at? I think it's much better to let inmates purchase fresh fruits and vegetables than it would be to provide them. There's just a lot of, it won't end up the way you want it to end up in general. Now, at the county jail, they probably have more control, but at least within the prison system, it's just, you're better off just having a direct relationship. I think one of the things I was going to mention is we have all these local farms, especially with raw milk and so many other products that are just so beneficial on so many levels. I didn't include that in your packet, but there is just so much data on raw milk being beneficial. I mean, it's impossible to ignore. I actually recently learned that you have two different types of milk. You have A1 and then A2. Raw milk is actually A2 because it has a different type of, I'm skipping on this right now, but for people with lactose sensitivity, it's actually easier to process. So somebody that, especially with African Americans, they have trouble processing. They hate milk, basically, because they think it destroys their insides, which a lot of times it does, but they're used to store-bought, super cooked, pasteurized, homogenized, destroyed milk. I think that maybe introducing raw milk would maybe help bring people back into a calcium improving, because, okay, we get into the fluoride in the water. That comes back to the calcium and whole things. But let me just, second one was the geoengineering that's occurring in our skies. We heard about this last year in the State House, but it's not going anywhere in the State House. Even though Florida now, the Senate passed a bill to, well, the Senate is passing to outlaw it in Florida. The governor is in strong support of it. And we are kind of under this assumption that there's nothing we can do about it, but that's not true. There's a very cheap software called Skyglass. In three-dimensional, you can track planes. You can click on one, see where it took off, where it landed, and so forth. So at this very moment, we can find a plane. Somebody says, okay, you know what? This plane is doing something funky. There's a trail. Now it's turning into a cloud. Now it's going further. Well, cloud cover, let's say. You can actually figure out where that plane took off, where it's landing. And I believe we should, through either you guys or the Sheriff's Department, create a task force that would not be funded. It would be just volunteers, because there are so many people that contact me about this. People really care, and they're very upset about this. And I'm going to get into why nothing's happened. But we could then contact these airports where they're landing and saying, hey, this flight with this tag, what's going on? Can you look into this? And maybe the other department's like, you know, we don't have time for this stuff. But I'll tell you what, in Florida, they're concerned about it. And 30 states are introducing legislation to get rid of this. So
what do you think that is? What's the change? Because up here, I think there's like a stigma. I'm just a humble person from Pembroke, so I don't know.
Well, I'm a carpenter myself, but I mean, I'm outside looking in the sky.
So what's the difference between what they're doing in other states and here, like culturally? Because I feel like maybe in those states like Florida, they're more concerned about this than up here. It's something maybe we haven't thought about. Why do you think that is?
Well, everything takes time. I mean, they generally say politics is, politics is the last kind of entity to follow what's going on with public sentiment, kind of trails behind. But let me back up to the Department of Environmental Services, Assistant Director of the Air Resources Division, on February 11th at a hearing for a recent bill, said, I would note that this is an issue that is a concern to many citizens. It's not in your packet. It's a video, so I didn't want to send you screenshots. It would be a waste. But I'm going to send you this email with all the timestamps on it afterwards. is a concern to many citizens. We do get a lot of complaints. We do get a lot of calls and concerns. And again, the department has no particular authority to address these types of emissions right now, which is kind of absurd. This is the assistant air director saying, Department of Environmental Services, we can't do anything. So that's why I'm here, because I think the sheriff, chief law enforcement officer of the county, I believe has a duty to address this, if not the county attorney as well. I believe.
Wouldn't it be the Attorney General's office and the New Hampshire State Police?
Well, okay, the problem with that.
Power of the county stuff, but I mean, just they are the legislative body.
I would say no, because the state police were initially created in the 1930s to deal with DWIs on the highways. So as far as I'm concerned, they really don't have anything to do with the sky, but maybe nowadays they have.
But they got their own planes, they've got.
Understood, but I'm just saying initially that's what their real deal was, so I'm trying to leave them where they are. The Attorney General is appointed by the governor, so that's a political position. The county attorney is elected by the people. It's popularly elected along with the sheriff. So I believe they have more of a tie to the people than a political appointee. I mean, I had to sit down with Attorney General Formella over the COVID-19 scam a couple of years ago, and that went nowhere. So I've lost faith in that office entirely, to be quite honest with you. So that's why I'm here. But on January 30th, 2024, at a hearing, it was actually the bill I put in for the geoengineering, a representative had put an amendment in to say that we'll use the Air National Guard to monitor these planes and figure out what's going on. So Chairman Vose said the following. So I did receive an email from Warren M. Perry, who is the Deputy Adjutant General of the Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services. And he says, we do not and cannot support the provisions requiring us to review reported violative flights using flight tracking software to determine time and location of the plane's passage. We are also concerned about the requirement to issue notice to federal agencies. Our air traffic control operations are fully funded by the federal government in support of federal missions and conducted by the Air National Guard, or New Hampshire National Guard. We cannot support these requirements in a federally funded status. Compliance with these requirements will require those National Guard personnel and our equipment to be ordered into state service by the governor. So that would seem to be a negative of this particular amendment. So we have now the federal government not wanting to deal with it, and really I would say our soldiers, our Air National Guard, saying, oh yeah, we can't do it because we're getting federal money. So it's left up to us, you. And I included in your packet, I kind of jumped around a little bit, but there is an article from the Florida Phoenix discussing the recent passage in the Senate. And one of the quotes, just on the second page, is the senator that introduced it, said, there's a lot of unauthorized activity that is currently not regulated both at a federal and a state level. And this is where we want it to start. This is how we're trying to create a method to the madness by creating a reporting mechanism that starts with complaints to the Department of Environmental Protection and with complaints and concerns, and then also at our local state airports. And I think that's what we're missing. The Department of Environmental Services admitted that they're getting a lot of complaints, but where are these going? He admitted nowhere. He tells them, oh yeah, okay, and I'm in touch with people who have contacted his office, and they deal with Mr. Healy, the chief scientist, and he's like, oh yeah, those are normal clouds. So it's just kind of a big spin game going on, where nobody knows anything. But obviously 30 different states apparently know something. So yeah, that's on that. Now, the other issue I want to deal with was fluoride in the water. No, I'm sorry, let's back up to the inmate concerns. Because we have the food, and I was hoping that you guys could assist me in getting an accurate list of exactly what's being sold in the commissary, and maybe we can start a conversation on introducing true, healthy, locally produced products into that system. And the nursing home is awesome too. I'm not against that. I've never been in a nursing home myself, so.
The only reason I brought it up prior is because we have a county farm that I think last year produced 75,000, maybe 100.
Oh, that's awesome, yeah.
Pounds of fresh produce, and a lot of our people in the correctional facility actually get to go out and work it, which they like because they get to be outside, and I think also planting something as a seed, tilling it, watching it grow.
Yes.
That's huge for somebody. So they do get that, and I think it's interesting what you say with the MAHA and everything like that. I think recently our society as a whole has been very cognizant about health. I have a family member who's almost 70 years old. They've drinking raw milk their whole life and have never had an issue. So I think when it comes to some of these health concerns, it's definitely something to look into, not necessarily just as a county, but as a society.
Well, I was just hoping to get the conversation started at the county level, because I believe that's where we can get things done. The state level, I've just unfortunately lost a lot of faith in. There's just a lot of partisanship, gamemanship kind of nonsense going on. And as far as you're talking about inmates working outside, there's ample evidence on the effects of grounding or earthing, simply being barefoot outside. So in your packet, this is, I believe, the first or second one in there, but there's actually a picture. It's a diagram with Mr. Shoes and Mr. Barefoot, and this is on PubMed. Bless you. This is on PubMed, and this is actually the summary of the whole study. And it's basically that if you have injuries, inflammation, a whole bunch of different issues, the electrons from the ground are able to go into your body now and deal with the free radicals that are floating around. It sounds kind of nuts, but it makes a lot of sense. I think kind of all of our remedies are much closer to us than, from some pharmaceutical bottle. So just having inmates the ability to go outside and receive fresh air and sunlight is huge. And as far as I'm understanding, there is no actual outside time. It's all kind of in these rec decks, which are basically a concrete pad with a fake garage door that opens up 3 feet, if that. I'm not exactly sure what the conditions are. I was not able to do a deep tour of the current jail. Now, the second one is the open air treatment of pandemic influenza. This is about the 1918 Spanish flu. What's interesting, though, is the Massachusetts State Guard set up this is just from part of the report. The Massachusetts State Guard set up a bunch of tents, during that epidemic. And they experienced significant less deaths than those who were in hospital rooms. And here it is. The Surgeon General of the Massachusetts State Guard, William A. Brooks, he reported that in one general hospital, 76 cases, 20 patients died within 3 days, and 17 nurses fell ill. By contrast, according to one estimate, the regimen adopted at the camp reduced the fatality of hospital cases from 40% to about 13%. And there's so many other benefits there's evidence that heart attack victims stand a better chance of recovery if they're in sunlit wards. Depressed psychiatric patients fare better if they get some sun while hospitalized, as do premature babies with jaundice. There's just insane amount of benefit, and scientifically proven with sunlight. And I feel that, from my own experience, county jails are kind of created to break you so you accept a plea bargain and move on down the line to the prison system. That's kind of the game. They make it really crappy, so you say, okay, I'll sign, and you just get to go to prison where you get to go outside for 2 hours a day, whatever it is.
I think usually that's the case, but I think Merrimack County Correctional Facility, we probably have one of the best facilities in the state, if not the whole, frankly, the country. I mean, we go in and we do our inspections. There's not a lick of dust or dirt on the ground. I mean, it's hard to find issues in there. And it's a good environment.
Well, I'm not, okay, let me finish. I didn't come here to attack you guys or anybody here,
I just want to address that's not a crummy facility, maybe like a lot of other jails. We take great pride in our correctional.
Well, I think a lot of the jails now are built on this kind of new age, pod kind of thing going on, where everything is inside, it's super safe, and I just think normal things like going outside, touching a tree, stepping on grass is something that we should kind of incorporate for people that we're hoping to rehabilitate and get into normal society. Unless they're going to live underground, it's kind of not really a good training regimen. From the Department of Environmental Services, I have the fact sheet for community water fluoridation in New Hampshire. So Central Hooksett Water Precinct that serves Hooksett. Then we have the Concord Water Department that serves Concord and Pennacook. And then we have the Manchester Water Works that serves Hooksett. They provide fluoride for those towns in the water. Now, the problem is that what they're using is, well, one of them is not listed, but for the two that are listed, it's fluorosilicic acid. So I managed to go down a few rabbit holes recently on this. And fluorosilicic acid is detrimental to the pipes because it leaches lead from the actual pipe structure, like the plumbing structures. So there's a study from a Dartmouth professor in the late 90s, where he was warning about these chemicals because SIFs, which is what he's talking about, are chlorine terase inhibitors. They have the effect like chemical agents linked to Gulf War syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, and other puzzling conditions that plague millions of Americans. We need a better understanding of how SIFs behave chemically and physiologically. And then there's also, from the same professor, there's a correlation with, it's on the, sorry, I kind of was rushing around. There's connection with fluoridated water and violent behavior. They looked at Georgia with these communities that were using fluoridated water, with the fluorosilicic acid, I should say, not the sodium fluoride. And they had increase in cocaine usage and aggressive, well, violence. But they did not have these increases in other communities that were just using sodium fluoride. So there's a whole bunch of weirdness going on with that. So at the very least, I'd say if you want to fluoridate, which I don't think we should be doing, sodium fluoride looks like a safer alternative. And the question is, why are we even fluoridating at all? We have RFK, HHS commissioner now saying that we need to get rid of this. Utah has officially banned it from their water supply. Oh, yeah. They got rid of it, yeah. Britain only 10%. They're trying to push it over there. So there's also a link. This is the longer article I sent you from the Daily Mail online. And they're claiming there's a recent study out. This is a British paper, obviously. A 500% increase in autism. Now, I'm not claiming to know what autism is created by and anything like that. But at the same time, these studies keep coming out. And this is very recent. This is April 10th. And there's also the more important, I wouldn't say more important, but the more scientifically proven at this point issue is the IQ drop in children. So there's a 5-point, yeah.
Commissioner Loveland just informed me that he has to leave in 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll just wrap it up real fast. So anyway, the point is, I'd like to deal with. But anyway, I'll wrap it up there. The point is, the fluoride that they're putting in the water, including this last article I gave you, was from Amesbury, Massachusetts, where they started using powdered fluoride, and then they had an issue because they were getting it from China, where a lot of the fluoride is actually coming from now, apparently. It was clumping up in their dispensing machines, so they ended up getting rid of it, voting to get rid of it. But I think it's also a question of, if we're getting this stuff from China, is there any actual analysis by the Department of Environmental Services on the purity of this? You know what I mean? Previously, it came from Florida, and it's a byproduct of making phosphate fertilizer. It's not like this stuff is some kind of magic bean, you know? So there's a little bit hit or miss there, but I wanted to bring those 3 issues up with you, and hopefully we can work towards some means of monitoring this and, at the very least, alerting people to the issues involved, especially with the fluoride. I mean, is there any benefit? The only benefit that fluoride has is topically applied. So if somebody wants to deal with their children having, you know, dental issues, that's what they're doing in other areas. Provide them with the fluoride that they can give to their kids directly, instead of putting it in the water where you can't dose it. If you're running around all day and you're drinking 20 gallons of water, should you have a 20 times higher intake of fluoride? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, we do appreciate all the research you did. I mean, this is a lot, and I'm definitely going to read it later on, and we'll talk.
Okay, I appreciate it. Oh yeah, if you guys have any questions, I know it's like a whole stack of papers and most likely go in the trash, but there's a lot of good data in there, and I really think it would benefit the people of this county to deal with this.
Your time. We know it's Monday.
Very much so. A lot of interesting reading here, and hopefully things that we have jurisdiction over and authority over, we can have some impact. We can get him the list, or the list has been given to Jason as far as the
List of.
Commissary?
Well, it's not just the commissary. Oh, we could speak. I need to know. I want to know the exact items. You know what I mean? Just saying like tasty cake doesn't really do anything for me. I need to know exactly what it is. Well, yeah.
Obviously.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.